welcome back to SportsKhabri. With me are Adi and Rishi, and it's time for a bit of football. What a weird season we're having in the Premier League, at least. You see Manchester United struggling, they place 12th. You see Tottenham Hotspur 15th, potentially in a relegation battle. If Everton sort of get anything from that game in hand, they go above Spurs. So, such a weird season we're having, right? And in all of this, like, I think there's a very serious conversation to be had about whether or not there is a big six anymore. The traditional big six: Arsenal, um, Chelsea, Liverpool, United, Spurs, and Manchester City. It's so weird, bro. Because like now, I think for this season also, you see a lot of these teams are, I don't know if they're overperforming or whether they're deservedly in the place that they are. You see, Forest are third this year. Last year, we saw Villa finish in the top four. The year before that, you saw Newcastle finish in the top four. These big six, should they be big six anymore at all? Rishi, like, what is your take, dude? Like, if you see now, in the last 3 years, Spurs have finished outside the top six twice. I mean, if you count this season as well, they're not in the top six. And in the last 3 years, they've only finished in the top six once. So what is the status of these teams? Is there a traditional big six anymore?
I think from a commercial perspective, I still feel, even though the gap are significantly closing, I still think these big six teams have a head start or like a big financial upper hand over like many of these clubs. You can say probably Newcastle United are like catching up or rather already there with these big six clubs. But other than that, like you see Tottenham, even though their season is going pretty bad, like same with United, but they still are some of the most profitable clubs when it like comes to generating revenues, generating income. So and they pull the crowds like bigger than like not Tottenham per se, but even then in the car, like when you count like say the top six, top seven clubs, they still pull fans, they still pull the fanfare. So from that perspective, I still feel they do have that relevance. But it's been a while now that like these two teams or even Chelsea occasionally they've fallen to 10th, 11th. They've had their own tumultuous times, and like it has been a torrid time for these clubs. So I think if even if we can't say for sure that this is the end of big six, I still see a significant shift away from the big six. Like back in the day, like in the early 2000s, it was pretty much Arsenal and United, and before then for a while it was United, Newcastle, and then it became Liverpool, United, Arsenal, Chelsea. Once
Yeah.
the Russian money came in, and then eventually it became the big six. Once City also entered the fray, and Tottenham started playing well under Pochettino. So of course it's never going to be the big six for a while. Like it's always been changing. Like it's the big two, big four, big six. So I feel now is the time we're slowly beginning to see a shift from a big six culture as such.
Adi, bro, what do you think the Big Six is based on? Was it based on like performance and revenue generation, or what was it based on? Because in the 23-24 season, all of these six clubs, the Big Six, were in the top 10 most revenue generating teams in Europe. So there's there is still like a case as far as finances are concerned. But what do you think the top six meant? Did it mean financial success plus success on the pitch, or what do you think it was based on?
I mean, at least the 5 teams out of the 6 teams are only teams who won the Premier League. I think that's what matters, right? You
Mm,
look at the entire Premier League season, you only have 7 different winners, if I'm not wrong. You've had Liverpool, United, Arsenal, City, Chelsea went from the top five. I think Leicester won it 1 year. I'm not sure who else won it. Blackburn Rovers, if I'm not wrong. I can't
yeah,
remember. I'm really sorry
yeah,
about it.
they
Yeah,
have, they
Blackburn
have.
Rovers with Alan
Yeah,
Shearer.
with Alan Shearer, right? I think that's the only amount like teams that have won a Premier League. So I think the reason you have a big five, big six is only for the fact that they've been successful for a long, long time. So these clubs have been playing for a long time. They've always had the big pull. Like at the end of the day, that's what it is. Now I don't know how Spurs are in this conversation as a big six, but yeah, maybe it is because of revenue. I really don't know. Like for me personally, like what relevance is it for them to be there? Like I can't make it out because what's the difference between like I don't know, like right now, like Villa, Newcastle versus Spurs, like it's similar thing, but maybe throughout history they were a bit more consistent playing Europe. Maybe UCL also here there. And over the last 10 years, since that Harry Kane era, the Pochettino era, they were consistently playing UCL. I think that's what made them get into, sneak into the conversations also. But yeah, I think it's a matter of success over sustainable period of time. I think only these teams have done that over the history of the Premier League. I mean, even with Liverpool before 4 years ago, they haven't won a Premier League, but they would still be in the Big Six conversation, or like they were classified as a Big Six team, like in terms of the stature, right? So yeah, I think it's just a matter of it's a mix of all, like revenue, history. I think history matters a lot. Like any top player would rather go to a team like Liverpool over, even though they didn't win a Premier League team, a top player would always favor to go to Liverpool, right? Like at that point of time, they signed guys like Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, Alisson, whatever it is at that time. So it shows that they have some value traditions of the club, the culture of the club that showcases all over the world as a brand value. I think that also matters a lot. At the end of the day, it's very branding. Like when you're branded as a top six team, it shows that okay, you're a big team. Like it's just the big boys. I think it's more of that than anything else.
Bro, it's weird because Spurs have only played the Champions League 6 times in their club's history, that is. So, again, like, my question again, bro, Rishi, is the same. Like, what do you think comprises a Big Six club?
Yeah, I have to agree with what Adi said when it comes to like the league stature. Like you can't ideally be called a big six if you don't have that sort of relevance. Like if you can't be considered a mammoth club if you don't have the merit for it. Like how, like on what basis do you say it? Like on what basis do you say that okay, I am one of you guys? Like when the others are putting their Premier League accolades or like European accolades on the table, like you need to show something. But yeah, like again, when you said 6 times, I was actually shocked because it seems like or it rather seemed like a lot more than six. But
They played the European top flight 7 times. So, outside the 2000s, they've only played once the
yeah,
European.
so that's very shocking. But yeah, I feel like what Ari said, like when that team which had Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen, Musa Dembele, I think that team was slightly a little bit more consistent than say what a Newcastle or Villa have been doing now. Like Newcastle made it to Europe, made it to Champions League once, and then they dipped. So if they were to do it consistently for like the next 4 or 5 years, I think they would pretty much account to what Tottenham have been doing. And then you're gonna have to start a parallel conversation. Okay, what like will Newcastle eventually be the new member of the top six replacing Tottenham? Because I feel they are historically a club which has had like fan base, a strong fan base, a passionate fan base. They have been a footballing city. They have their own culture. So from that traditional perspective, they stand toe to toe with Tottenham. So if they do that, if they consistently put up European appearances like Champions League appearances, I feel it will be time that you have to like start having them in their conversation. And I also feel in the modern game you need to have that level of like you need to attract crowd. You need to have a fan base. You need to have a like it's not just exclusive to England or Europe at this point. Like the game has developed so much, has a massive reach across the globe. Like whether it be through players, like you see, like had just because of Heung-min Son, the Asian fan base has shot up for
Yeah,
Tottenham.
yeah.
Same with
Yeah.
a lot of fans from Japan support Brighton simply because of Mitoma. So you have all these different factors. Like their global reach also matters to an extent. To an extent, not it. I don't think it should play a very significant role, but I think all of these should have a little say for it for themselves.
Okay, so then now I'm just okay, fine. This is the basis. So we're saying financial success does matter. That's why there was this traditional top six. So are we still sticking to that traditional top six because they're still financially successful, or how much of a role does footballing like success play?
But what is the success? I still think it comes over a matter of 10, 15 years for you to be somewhere, right? Like you can't just say, okay, like even for the example of Tottenham, just because they've not played 4 years of or the past 4, 5 years, they've only played once UCL or twice UCL. I feel like it's more of they have a better chance to play UCL than other teams right now. Even though you look at the other teams, they've all spent a lot of money, right from teams like Nottingham Forest, right from Newcastle, even Aston Villa. All these teams have the financial power to spend. Like I don't think none most of the teams right now can spend, especially in the Premier League. But it's also about like who has the best chance. Like at the end of the day, who has the best chance or a better, higher probability to go through. Like at the end of the day, you still think, okay, sustainability wise, Tottenham can still spend for 5 years if they really need to and push themselves to the UCL or do something they really want to. But can that happen from Newcastle? I don't know. Can that happen from Aston Villa? I don't know. Can that happen from what do you call that? Nottingham Forest? I really don't know. So that's the whole point, right? Like you can, you know, you have the money, but can you really spend money? Because you, even if you have rich owners in the Premier League, you can't spend it without having higher revenue. That's what matters. So it doesn't matter how rich your owners are, as long as your club is not able to have huge amount of revenue, income. And that's the point. Like Saudi, like Newcastle, they have rich owners, but they still have to sell a lot of players for PSR. They still need to keep their squad very limited, just for the fact that they can't generate a lot of money just because they're not traditionally a big club. Out in England, maybe they are a huge club in their own city, but outside that, it's not really as big as they are. And compared to Spurs, maybe they still have that thing. Like as you said, they generate a lot of revenue. I think they're top eight in the world right now. So sustainability wise, they can still back themselves over a long time to spend money on top players, build a team. Not fact is they're not doing it, but you look at Tottenham, they spend a lot of money, and the point is they can keep doing it forever. Like that's the whole point.
Okay, so you're saying that basically that Spurs, because they have that spending power, that you can potentially say that they can consistently still, they have the best shot amongst the rest to make the top six. So for argument's sake, let's say Spurs are in the top six. Rishi, do you think even now Spurs are still there?
In the top six in terms of
Yeah.
what
If
exactly?
say, let's say that they are whatever financial success and the ability to compete and
But
stay
it's not.
again
It's
in
just
the
not
top six.
financial success. It is like at the end of the day, what do you look at Tottenham? Like you call them the big six. It's not only Tottenham. It's when Arsenal were there at a point of time. Chelsea are there right now to an extent. United are there to an extent. Everyone has their own slump. You look at Arsenal; they were not in the UCL for the past 7 years. Were you telling that Arsenal were not a top six club at that time? Like that's my whole point. Like
No,
the point is
I agree.
Arsenal's.
That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm asking. Like, do you think right now still Spurs are a top? So let's say there is a top six hypothetically, and the top six are these six clubs. Do you think Spurs are still there, Rishi? Because I think a lot of the conversation is around Spurs itself. Because I'm sure it's very hard to sort of say that the rest are not. The rest are doing well on the pitch, except for United, obviously, and they're also getting the money in. And of course, United, I don't think it would take a lot. It would take probably a very bold argument to say that United aren't in the top six after the achievements they've had over the years. So I think the real conversation probably is about Spurs. You think there's any other club that says is probably saying is in with a shout to replace them, or do you think Spurs still are in the top six
think
and the top
I
six
think
is the
right now it's a little bit hard to say that. Like it'll be a little bit harsh on them because even last year, even the season before that, even Antonio, the season that Conte was there, like they made it to Euro, they made it to Champions League, and it's been what, like one season of Postecoglou. That is this is the second season, and yeah, it doesn't look very like positive for them the way they're playing their die on that hill attitude of we're going to throw all our players forward kind of football. But if it does persist for a while, another couple of seasons, then you need to have serious conversations, not just for argument's sake. Like, but I think for now you still can make a case that okay, like they're having injury crisis like they've never seen before. I saw a stat where it said they don't have more than 5 or 6 first team players who are above the age of 18, and that is kind of baffling. Like this kind level of injury crisis is kind of unprecedented, and you can I've seen a lot of Tottenham discourse on Twitter also. Like they're saying this is down to the coach, like his mismanagement of players, like whatever it is. So
Mhm.
I think for now at least you can give them a long rope, saying that it is a little bit too soon. Like I think 1.5 seasons is like kind of a short time to completely exclude them from a group. But if this does continue for another season, and I think then you can have the conversation, because Tottenham have always like prided upon the fact that they have been a consistent Champions League club while maintaining revenues, while like having like their new stadium has come up, their new shiny new stadium, shiny new toy that they have. But ultimately, if they can't back all this new revenue and whatever with performances on the field, I think ultimately you are a football club. What you do on the field is what matters. So if you can't back your sustainability and your profitability with performances, then you need to then you need to start having conversations about that.
No, I think like again, just to sum up everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
the Big Six is not based on just your trophies, bro. That's my point. Big Six is literally based on marketing. It's just a term to make you feel like yeah, a big team is playing each other. And at the end of the day, I think it is somewhat influenced by Sky Sports. They were the one who pushed this agenda of Spurs, and now they're in the talks because they played whatever. At a point in time, they were playing UCL consistently,
Mm.
and they have the money. That's my point. Like, look at the amount of money they're able to spend. Like for example, look at Tottenham. The right now the players they spent on, like, you look at from this centre backs. Sorry, they spend what, easily 45 million on each of the centre backs. Look at the midfielder, they spend another 45 million on Madison. Look at their attack, bro. They spent 70 million on Solanke. They spent 55 million on Richarlison. They spent another 45 million on the right winger. I forgot his name. I'm
Brandon
really sorry.
Johnson. They've
Brennan
also
Yeah,
got.
Johnson.
Brandon Johnson. And like, and they can still do that. I think today also I was reading like they're going to
Matthias
spend
Tell.
around 70 million on Matthias Tell. So it shows that they can constantly just keep spending money. They spend 40 million on Archie Gray in the summer. The point is they can constantly spend money even if they're not in UCL, if they don't have the pull of UCL, if they're not playing in Europa League, whatever it is. That's my point. Like, I think the Big Six comes off of revenue generation, and the point
Mm.
is I'm a big team because I can spend my money even if I'm not playing well. That's why that's
Uh,
what the main point is. And I don't think any team really can replace it. Even with Newcastle, you tell Newcastle, but who knows? Like, players might want to leave Newcastle if they're not playing UCL next year. Like, that's the whole point of it. Like, to an extent, I didn't see that to an extent with Spurs. I mean, they were able to maintain their top players, even though they were not able to win any big trophy at that point of time. But with Newcastle, it's like, okay, you don't play a UCL season this year. Maybe if they don't go next year, then the players might want to leave. Like, you can see a lot of players wanting to leave tomorrow. For example, Liverpool put a bid for like Gordon or Isaac. They would want to leave for Liverpool, but it's not really the same with Tottenham in the sense of, like, you Manchester tried to push and buy Kane, but he ended up staying in Spurs. Like, that's the thing. Like, the disparity between your whatever top six, whatever it's branded as, versus another team, I still think it's just too early to talk about. And I still don't see any team right now that was able to play consistently for a long time as a top four, top six like team, like
mhm.
consistently for the next 10 years. If you're saying any other team from the top six team that are going to be there in the Champions League or like fighting for the spots for a title, like I don't see anyone like sustainability wise. Like, I just don't.
I think what I'm getting from both of you, I think in general, is sort of consensus is that as whatever unfortunate as it is, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, good for the Premier League, but that the financial side of it is clearly outweighing the on-pitch performances, and that as long as you are able to draw that financial sort of, if you have that financial pull, you will be good to go in the top six as long as you can spend and all of that. Like Adi said, I think that was a great point where even the big players will still want to stay just because of the fact that they have the money and they have the money and the capability of buying better players, and which in turn means that you could potentially challenge in the coming years. So yeah, very interesting. I think I'd love to know like from people in the comments whether this top six thing is based off of mostly financial abilities versus on-field performances, and whether there is a top six still. Again, from the consensus that I get, the top six after it was made, we still kind of believe that it's the same top six that exists today because of their financial powers and things like that. But yeah, all in all,
Initially, it used to be the
yeah,
top six, and then somewhere it got changed to the big six. Like
yeah,
after
yeah.
Tottenham and
Big
United
six,
started,
yeah,
yeah.
the big six, yeah. So that's where we stand. Again, it's an interesting chat. I would love to know, like in the comments again, if you guys believe that the big six is a real thing and whether these big six are still the big six or not. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and share the video, subscribe to Sports Kabri. See you soon. Bye bye.